makes him a good manager is he is willing to listen to other voices. And I think that's a lot like Terry Francona was the same way. But I think a huge thing with this team is he's young and he just played. And so these guys trust him when he talks about different things, how they're going to go about their business. They saw him play, so it pulls a lot of weight. I think the Guardians front office did an amazing job with their search to get Stephen Vogt. I mean, yeah, we waited I think it was like a month, but I think it's been a pretty good hire so far. The results show that. He's a catcher. He was a catcher. It's been known throughout history of Major League Baseball. Former catchers make great coaches and managers, pitching coaches and managers. They really do. Bruce Bochy, former, catcher, backup catcher. Like he wasn't even – Stephen Vogt was an all-star. Bruce Bochy was never an all-star. Former catchers, they turn out to be really good managers.
Well, they have a unique view of the field, right? They see all the positions. They can see everything that's going on while they're playing to get a feel for what people should be doing.
Yeah, involved in every pitch, so. And I think it's really good, having Stephen Vogt too, Sandy Alomar there, and because they have this young catcher, and Bo Naylor, who I think will be a superstar. I saw him at Lake County when he his first year as being a catcher in pro ball, and I think he's going to be phenomenal. It's just taking some time. Catching's a hard position. You have to know everything that's going on.
Well, do you think it's not necessarily, him catching, but, that bad and average getting up there? He hasn't had the best start of the year so far. He had a game-winning, home run yesterday. It wasn't a walk-off, but, he came in there and hit the home run that won the game against the San Francisco Giants. Do you more so see it as, got to get that batting average up to be effective?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if a catcher hits 250 in Major League Baseball today, they're pretty good.
Mm-hmm. The catchers are not known for being the best hitters.
They're not. I mean, that's why the guys that are in the Hall of Fame, the catchers that are in the Hall of Fame are in there because they stood out. There were 30 catchers and there were maybe 3 that hit above 275. I feel like offensively, he'll eventually be better than Sandy Alomar. I don't know about defensively. I don't know if we could ever get – I mean, that defense by Sandy Alomar was incredible, But, I think that's why he stayed in the minor leagues as long as he did because his defense wasn't, up to the Guardian standard for catchers is very high, so.
For me, that person was Mike Scioscia out of Philly, El Jefe, to the point about there's something unique about catchers, those that go on to manage. I mean, you already know his story. And I'm so old, Tim. One of his relatives taught one of my undergrad classes. I went to college out on the East Coast. But he had an incredible career, I think better as a manager than a player. What are your thoughts on that?
Who was
Mike Scioscia?
Mike Scioscia, yes.
Yeah.
In my head, I'm getting Mike Piazza. I'm sorry.
No, that makes sense though.
No, that makes sense. Say Mike Scioscia, and I'm thinking, wait a minute. But no, Mike Scioscia was a great manager.
Absolutely.
I think that the way the game is run now by GMs, I think Mike Scioscia saw the handwriting on the wall and said, "Yeah, I'm going to get out of here now."
He had his time.
Yeah, I think that it's harder for us older baseball people to understand how these younger guys are running it a little bit now. I think that the Guardians have done a good job of meshing both. But yeah, Mike Scioscia was a great manager. He's a great catcher. I mean, look, he was how many years was he with the Dodgers?
Oh my gosh, yeah,
most of his career, and yeah, he's. I think he was on that '88 team that won the won the World Series, I
Yeah,
believe.
they got 2 World Series. And for me, it's like honestly, and the girls will tell you, like I am a wait until after the All-Star break kind of fan, and I apologize that makes me feel or come across as fair weather. It's just the highs and lows are so much, and it's such a long season. But in this moment, Rachel and Cleveland, Kate and Tim, I will absolutely give the skipper his props to have the second best record in the league without pitching. Like I don't recall the last time that happened. Maybe somebody can help me out here.
Probably 2012, I would say.
Yeah, pitching has been rough. We're going to talk catchers, and we're going to talk Cleveland catchers. As much as I love Sandy Alomar, I was a Victor Martinez girl. I paid more attention to the game during the years that, like, I watched Sandy from like a fan perspective, but I was more into sports. I was starting to cover football, and I paid more attention to the actual nuances of baseball when Victor Martinez was catching. And
yeah, he was really.
He's gonna be my favorite catcher.
He was great too. I see. When I was growing up, there were not a lot of great Cleveland catchers. You know, Chris Pindo and Andy Allison, guys that look, they gave a great effort every game. They just weren't. There wasn't a lot here back in the 70s and 80s. So Sandy Alomar, to me, like, he was the first great catcher I could remember. I was 27 years old when they won the pennant for the first time. Like, that's a lot of suffering. So Sandy Alomar, for me, he's the guy.
Yeah, and remind me real quick, but before you pick up, was Joel Skinner a catcher?
Yes, he was. He was with the team late 80s.
Right. Okay.
Like 88, 89.
Joel Skinner is dead to me. We don't talk about Joel Skinner.
Here we go.
If he hadn't held up Kenny Lofton,
yeah, Boston did go and score.
I will never let go of it. I'll never let go of it. I will tell you, I was a little concerned when we got Vogt. I was afraid he was too young. After Tito has experience, not just as a manager, but with playoffs, with World Series, with all of that. I wasn't sure how the players would do with someone that was closer to them in age that they could relate to, but I think it has worked out really well. It's a very different style, but this is also a very different roster than we've had over the last few years, and I think they have gelled really nicely. My concerns are gone. I like what he's doing. I like what the team's doing. If we could just get some pitching, we can't sustain this kind of winning. If we don't get some pitching, because at the end of the day, at the end of the season, we're going to be facing teams that can hit the ball as well as we do. And, our division itself is pretty easy to get through. No,
I don't think so. The division, it's much better this year. It's much better, aside from the White Sox, who they can't beat.
White Sox.
I don't get it. But the good news is they don't have to play the White Sox in postseason.
Yeah.
If they make it. So.
Well, one of the things for me is it kind of feels like the Cleveland Browns situation. We're winning in spite of not having any pitching. Browns won in spite of not having quarterback play. So, it's kind of like equating that, like, how they manage to keep doing this, because Logan Allen pitched the other day and then they sent him down to AAA the next day. Then you have, Tris McKenzie, who, is a whole unique situation within itself, because him going down to AAA is not going to be fit. It's not going to fix anything. It's not going to fix his velocity because of his injury. So, that was supposed to be your ace after Shane Bieber went down. So now Tanner Bybee is your ace right now. So, I'll take that, what he's got. But, and Carlos Carrasco goes out there on the mound, it definitely scares me. Huh?
He's been pitching better, though.
Yeah, I know.
Last 5 starts, his ERA's under 4. So,
well, that's good.
I know,
but it's still scary every time he pitches the ball.
Oh yeah, I agree. I fell asleep for 2 minutes yesterday and woke up. It was 3-0.
And that's the thing, get these holes early. But one of the things that they've had that they haven't had the past few years is the ability to put the ball in play. You got Stephen Kwan leading off, almost close to batting 400. He was your leadoff hitter. So then he goes down, then he comes back like nothing ever happened. He's voted to his first All-Star game. So the ability for him to be able to get on base and have that top of the lineup drive him home, because also Jose Ramirez and Josh Naylor lead pretty much Major League Baseball in RBIs as well. So you're having something done that, has been a struggle for this team before. I think Aaron Judge leads it with like 88 RBIs or something like that, something crazy, but, the ability to get people home, which is something that this team has struggled with offensively in the past.
Well, go on.
No, and I was just going to pick up on that. So, Tim, I mean, what do you attribute that, hotter bats to as it specifically relates to the new skipper? Like, what has he done, or what are the things you think he's done to help the team put the ball in play more time?
Well, one of my thoughts before the season began, and I think I even might have told Rachel during the, Cavs game during spring training, that I thought they would be better just because they have a year of experience now. Remember, there was a lot of second-year guys last year, and the sophomore slump is a real thing in Major League Baseball. So now these guys are their third year, and like Stephen Kwan, he's hitting 80 points higher than he hit last year.
Yeah.
I don't know where he's going to finish. I'm hoping he finishes where he is now. That would be really amazing. But I just think another year of experience. Remember last year, Tanner Bybee had just come up. Logan Allen had just come up. But I don't know if Tanner Bybee is hitting as well as pitching as well as he pitched last year. He's pitching well, but I think he actually pitched better last year. This is his second year. But I really think that experience factor, it really matters. Clase had an off year last year. He's dealing with his partner was having a baby. That's a lot of stress. You're thinking about other things. And once you blow a couple saves in a row, I would have to think it's in your head.
It gets mental, right?
Yeah. So he looks like a completely different pitcher this year again. And I also think that, and I thought this because I don't want it to sound like it's any negativeness about Terry Francona, because the 11 years he was here were the greatest 11 years of my life as a Guardians fan. But there's some things that Vogt does that Francona didn't do.
All right, let's go there. I mean, really, because while I really respect Tito, right? I get the whole Tito thing. At the end of the day, and I say this about every sports team in our town, it's about what have you done for me lately? And I kind of felt that, Terry Francona got stale. He became more of a wordsmither instead of owning, hey, listen, this is where we broke down. This is what we need to do. This is unacceptable. I like to see that passion from the skipper. So compare, contrast, give me a couple of examples of what you just said that makes the new skipper different than Tito.
Tim, I need you to hold that thought for 1 second because we got to take a break. So when you come back, we'll be ready for your answer. Okay. All right. Yep. You're listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU and 95.9 FM. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. Remember to keep it locked here on your regular radio dial at 95.9 FM. You can download the WOVU app so you can listen to us on the go. And then also you can listen online at WOVU.org. And you can always contact the station with any questions, comments, concerns at 216-271-0959. I'm here with the ladies. I'm here with Sapphire, Cleveland Kate, and we have Tim Shire from the Lake County Sentinel. And before we went to break, Sapphire did ask Tim, what has Stephen Vogt been doing that's different than Terry Francona to, get success out of this team? So, Tim, go ahead with your answer.
Well,
thank you for holding.
Well, I also think that, and it was a well-known fact throughout Terry Francona's managing career, was he didn't believe in younger players a lot. He didn't like to play rookies. So Stephen Vogt has no problem playing rookies, playing younger guys. And that's another reason why I think it took Bo Naylor longer to get up. Because I don't think that Francona wanted to go with a younger catcher.
But Mike Zunino was terrible.
Well, yeah. And we watched him for a month.
Yeah. I don't know that Daniel Schneemann would be playing right now if Tito was still managing this team.
Who was that?
Daniel Schneemann.
Mm-mm.
No, probably not. Because Daniel Schneemann was a late pick.
Yeah. He's been crazy good. I don't know what he wasn't showing people before, but he is showing it now that he's up here.
He's been showing them since high A. Yeah, because he played for Lake County. They might have been low A then because they were low A before the pandemic. Then they became high A. But he was good at Lake County. He was a guy you rooted for. Low round pick, just a guy that he. And Ross Atkins, who's now the GM for the Blue Jays, who used to be the farm director for the the Indians. He told me once, a guy that's a lower draft pick, he doesn't have a shot right out of the gate. But if he just plays hard and he plays well, he's gonna make it. Jose Ramirez is a perfect example of that. Jose Ramirez, they signed him. He was wasn't a draft pick. He was one of the signees from the Caribbean, and I'm not sure he was on their radar. They sent him to Lake County halfway through the season in 2012. The team finished in last place the first half. Second half, they won the division with Jose leading off. He had 353. He was better than Lindor at Lake County. So I think the younger players playing now and feeling like they're going to get a fair shot, like Tyler Freeman. I don't think there's any way that Terry Francona would have had Tyler Freeman in center field. Or played him every day. He used to say Tyler needs to play more, deserves more of a shot. Then we wouldn't see him for a week. It made no sense. And the one thing I think is still continued with Stephen Vogt that was going on with Terry Francona is Gabriel Arias is not it. I would not be surprised if he gets traded at the deadline, and somebody else will say, "Oh yeah, he's going to be really good." Well, maybe he'll show it with them, but he's not shown it here. I feel like I don't know. I just watch him play, and it's hard to watch him play.
Yeah, maybe he would do better with a fresh start somewhere, Arias. And just as a side note, that uniform is going to look just as good on his next team as it does in a Guardians uniform. But I digress. Yeah. It's curious. It almost sounds like, Tim, you're saying that Vogt is he's more agile. He's got his finger on the pulse of the players, their talent level. And it's not to me, it doesn't come across as, hey, I'm going to give this a try. There's something that he sees in the players that when I think about Tito, just sounded like he was stuck in his ways. Like I said, kind of just became stale almost, What are your thoughts on that? I
think he knew it was time to go. That's why he retired. I think he knew. And he had always talked about that when, his contract was year by year. And he had always said he wasn't going to stay past it being time. And maybe he stayed a year too long. But he's a Hall of Famer. He was a great manager. And I think that, who knows, he might manage again. You never know. He might manage somewhere again. But it was time here, I think. We had 11 years with him, and I think it was time, and they made, that was my worry after he announced that he was leaving. Will this front office make a good choice?
Right.
Because let's be honest, the choice before Tito was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
The man he acted, that was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And so, they did their work. They always talk about doing their due diligence. They did their work and they hired the right guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's at least through 88 games. It looks like it's right. I mean, I can remember they told back in the early 80s, they hired, after when Dave Garcia retired, they hired Mike Ferraro. Mm-hmm. He was the AAA manager for the Yankees in Columbus, and he was the next rising star. And they fired him after 100 games.
Wow.
Yeah, so it looks like this time they made the right choice.
Yeah, because one of the things that supposedly one of the rumors was that Tito was tired of trying to manage without them spending any money or anything like that. But unfortunately, the success of this team has kind of proved that teams can make it to the World Series and stuff like that without spending money. So unfortunately, that's not going to do anything to convince the Dolans to change their mind about how they want to go about funding this baseball team. So obviously things will change with the new when the new ownership comes in.
But I'm not sure.
You think so with David? Was it Blitzer?
I mean, yeah, but I mean,
you don't think he's gonna spend more money?
I don't think so. The owners don't spend money out of their pocket. The Padres last year, they had to take out a loan to pay their payroll in September. So owners are not going to take money out of their pockets. I think that's a misconception here in Cleveland. The other two sports, revenue is there. It's shared. In this sport, it's not shared. For example, the Dodgers will have $450 million in TV revenue this year from their local TV deal. Woo. The Guardians, $45 million. 45.
And we don't know when it's not going to appear on TV no more.
I know. Like now, I was just thinking today, I'll be so glad when Bally Sports is gone.
Yeah,
because they are so bad. Not only is the game presentation bad, but the whole game presentation. They don't put the pitch up half the time. They don't move the base runner on the graphic. And who knows? Yeah, we didn't know when the season began whether the games would be on or not. Mm-hmm. So I'll be glad when they fix that. When they find somebody else gets the rights. I hear Amazon Prime looks like they might be one of the ones that goes after it. But at least we'll know where it's at. And I would have to think they're going to get more than $45 million a year for their. They're one of the highest rated baseball teams in the major leagues for their local ratings. Mm-hmm. But the problem is you could drop 10% in New York and you have 1 million people watching. You drop 10% in Cleveland, you have 80,000 people watching.
Even more of a reason for them to put it back on broadcast TV. I mean, I would love to stack up those ratings versus, Bally's any day of the week,
Yeah, I would love to see him back on free TV. When the Cavs did that at the end of the year,
that's right,
games on Channel 43, I thought that really was a move that showed they wanted more fans to see their games.
Right. That's right.
Mm-hmm. And support. Even the Monsters put games on public TV, during the playoffs. But Tim, because we've had you. I want to get your take on these all-stars. The Cleveland Guardians, second best team in baseball, has sent 5 All-Stars to the All-Star game. 3 of them will be their first All-Star. Stephen Kwan is going to be starting. David Fry is going to the All-Star. I was rooting for him. Josh Naylor is going to an All-Star game, who should have went last year, but somehow got snubbed. Jose is going again for his 6th, and Emmanuel Clase is going again. He wasn't able to participate last year because his partner was having a baby, so he did not participate in All-Star. But what are your thoughts about the All-Stars that were selected from the Cleveland Guardians?
Well, I think they're all deserving. I mean, all 5 are deserving. I mean, you could even make a case for Hunter Gaddis and Cade Smith, but they're not bringing 7 Guardians. Okay, let's just be honest, they're not. 5 is pretty good though, most in the American League. David Fry, it kind of surprised me. I thought they might leave him off, but the players voted on this. Players and managers and coaches. So obviously, the guys who know the game the best decided David Fry deserved to be there. I was really glad to see Josh Naylor. I was driving when I got the alert, and I have a thing that my phone's right there, so I'm not looking down or anything, but I got an alert that Naylor made it, and I hit my steering wheel because I was happy. Almost went off the road, but I was just really happy that he made it because he deserves it. And I think that the national media kind of held it against him for quite a while when he did in the playoff game, when he did the Rock to Cradle. I really believe that they still don't talk about it on MLB Network. They never talk about him on there, and I think which it's ridiculous. It's, they don't have a problem with Juan Soto doing the things he does and some of the other guys doing the stuff they do. But when small market Josh Naylor did it against the Yankees, it was bad. But I'm just so glad he got to go. And, it's going to be great to see 5 Guardians in the All-Star game. I mean, I remember the days where they get one would go because they had to have a representative. I remember Ken Schramm. He was a pitcher in the 80s, and he was terrible. But the pitching was so bad at that time. He was the ace of the staff. And I'll never forget them putting the graphic up that his stats, wins and losses, and I cannot remember what his wins and losses were, but I'll never forget his ERA, 5.79.
Woo.
And he was the Guardians representative. It was so embarrassing. It was the Indians representative. It was so embarrassing. I was like, oh my gosh, why'd they even show that? But it's great. It's amazing. There's 5. It's really good. And they all deserve it. Every single one of them. Jose leads and they follow. They follow. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. So before we let you go, number 1 pick in the Major League Draft this season, first time ever, lots of pressure. What are you thinking as far as what this team might do, who they might select? Anybody on your radar?
The one on my radar, they're not going to pick. It sounds like they're going to pick Travis Bassana. He's from Australia.
Yeah,
second baseman. I don't know. It seems like that's who they're going to pick. My thought is, and I've been saying it and I've said it in the group too. You probably have seen me post it. I want them to pick Jack Caglione from Florida. Okay. He is a really good pitcher, and he's a great power hitter. He can do both. I've seen him slotted right now, going to the Royals or going to the White Sox. That's just what we need. We need the next Shohei Ohtani in our division when the Guardians had the chance to get him. So I'll be honest. No matter who they pick with that first pick, if it's not him, I'm going to be disappointed.
I love how Tim thinks. We always need pitching. Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He does both. What have they lacked? Mm-hmm. They've lacked a power hitter, right?
Yeah. Okay. That's right.
Yeah. And you always need pitching. Hey, he answers both things.
Clear path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when Chicago wins the division in 4 or 5 years because Jack Caglione wins 20 games and hits 40 home runs, well, there we go.
Wow.
Oh, we gotta take a break right quick. Tim, we'll have you hold on, and then we come back. We'll talk a little bit of WNBA, and then we'll let you go after that. How does that sound?
Okay. All right.
Okay.
That sounds good.
All right. You're listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. We are going to be right back. All right. Welcome back to Her in the Huddle on WOVU and 95.9 FM. We got Tim Shire from the Lake County Sentinel on. We're going to let him go. I promise. But we wanted to just talk a little bit about WNBA. I know Sapphire and Kate wanted to talk. We're a little bit excited to, know that Tim used to cover the Cleveland Rockers when they were here. Tim, I think we talked about this last week. We had Mike Hughes from the Give Us Our Shine Network. And one of the things that we talked about with him was possible expansion of the WNBA. You think that Cleveland could one day be on the radar?
I think so. I don't see any reason why not. Dan Gilbert he likes to have something at that arena every night. And so I believe that, there's definitely 20 days open in the summer where they could have a WNBA team. And I'll be honest, they do well. The first time they were here, a lot has changed in 21 years. I don't see any reason why they couldn't Cleveland wouldn't support a team. I think with the explosion of the league with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, I think this, why not? Why not? And, there's going to be other players that come out of college, and who says, Cleveland can't have the next Caitlin Clark on their team or the next Angel Reese, and let me tell you something. People think that I've seen a lot of people say that, they're treating Caitlin Clark bad, or, Angel Reese is really, she's too rough. Well, let me tell you something. Angel Reese knows what she's doing. When I cover the WNBA, those girls are so tough and physical. They make NBA players look like they're not tough at all. I mean, I'll never forget, there was a girl that played for the Utah Stars. She missed a whole year injured.
Yeah.
And they're playing the Rockers, Debbie Black. She gets thrown into the scorer's table, gets right back up. Didn't even face her. They would have had to bring a stretcher out on the floor for an NBA guy.
Or a wheelchair, Paul Pierce.
Oh, yeah. It's just like the league is tough. They're being physical with Caitlin Clark because, look, she is a rookie and she's getting a lot of publicity. So they're going to show her, you're new here and you better earn your spot.
It's like pledging. It's like pledging. And sooner, look, Murphy's Law, she's going to make them pay.
Oh, yeah.
Very soon, she's going to start making them pay.
She will. And she's good.
Yeah.
And, I think the rivalry between her and Angel Reese is mostly people who don't watch the sport.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
I really believe that. I think they actually get along. I think they do.
And I think
What
they
I
have a
heard.
healthy respect for each other as well.
Yes, exactly. They respect each other. And I saw a picture last week of when the Fever played Phoenix, and Brittany Griner and Diana Taurasi talking to her before the game. They respect her too. People acted like, oh, Diana Taurasi should respect her because she said that stuff. No, Diana Taurasi's proven herself, and she was just saying Caitlin Clark's going to have to prove herself too.
Yeah.
But the WNBA to me it's amazing. I tell people, I covered the Lake County Captains for 20 years, and I enjoyed it for most of those 20. But the 7 years I covered the Cleveland Rockers, to me, was the greatest 7 years I ever spent as a writer.
Wow.
I loved it so much. There was nothing about the Cleveland Rockers experience that I didn't like. I met so many people. My son was born during that time. He came to his first sporting event, a Rockers game, when he was 10 days old. And just the league, to know I was in at the beginning, I remember that first night. I can still picture and see that first night in my head, how exciting that was. And it was a new league, and it was the hope that finally a women's league would survive and not just last a couple of years then go away.
That is so refreshing to hear a male's
Oh,
perspective on, professional athlete. Forget the gender. And this was, like you said, 20 plus
yeah.
years ago. I'm so interested. You're talking about Dan Gilbert and, of course, he wants those seats filled. How do you see that potentially working if the team would play at Wolstein Center?
Well, yeah, that would be interesting to see if they would agree to that. Obviously, it's a different owner now. The Guns owned the team then. And one of the things I heard when they were trying to get a group together to buy the team, when he said they were going to fold, was he would not agree to sell it to a group they were going to play at the Wolstein Center. But he's gone now. Gilbert, I think Gilbert would want them to play at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Look, with these crowds, the WNBA,
Absolutely. So Tim, who do you think's having that conversation with Dan Gilbert?
I don't know if they are having it, but I would hope they are.
Mm-hmm.
They are very forward thinking. The Cavs organization, the Cavs monsters. They're very forward thinking. So I wouldn't be surprised if they've had conversations. No one really knows, but I would be more surprised if they haven't had this conversation. Look, Dan Gilbert's a businessman. He's a really good businessman. And to bring a WNBA team in means more money for the brand.
You say that, and I've heard that from a couple other people as well, but there's only so many entertainment dollars out there. And this city is already supporting 3 teams. Are we going to cannibalize the Cavs? If I want to go to a game, does that mean I can't afford Cavs tickets because I'm buying the WNBA tickets? I don't know that there are people sitting home with entertainment money to spend that would show up for. Maybe I'm wrong.
But I think we also don't know if there isn't, because Detroit is a smaller market than ours and supposedly a more depressed market than ours. And they support 4 pro sports teams. So I think that we could. Now, people ask me all the time, do you think we could support a hockey team? No, I don't think so. Those tickets are really expensive for NHL games.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's the average cost?
Oh, I've heard they're like 4 times as much as the highest. Monsters ticket is the cheapest ticket for an NHL game. Like $80 is the cheapest ticket. Oh, wow. I could be wrong, but that's what I've heard for like a Columbus Blue Jackets game.
I haven't been to that. I've been to Nashville Predators, and I have a girlfriend who's a Carolina fan, and tickets are insane. Doesn't Detroit have 5 teams?
Do they? I'm not sure.
Lions, Pistons, Red Wings,
Tigers,
and then the WNBA team.
No.
They don't have
They
it.
had the Detroit Shock, but they had moved to Tulsa, and
Oh, okay.
now they're Dallas, the Dallas
Now
Wings.
they're Dallas. Okay.
They were the Detroit Shock when I was in the league, when I was covering the league. Nancy Lieberman Klein was the head coach.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's a name from the past.
Oh, and one night she explained the triangle offense to me after a game. Her little son, who's now a coach somewhere,
Right.
was running around driving her nuts. And she kept telling him to stop. And yeah, she spent like 10 or 15 minutes explaining the triangle offense to me.
It's amazing.
And unfortunately, by the time I got to my car, I remembered none of it.
It's amazing the type of access that you had too back then.
Yeah, it was so good. And the people I met, like Bill Lambier, he was the Detroit Shock coach after her.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the first night. Nobody had talked to him prior to the game. And some of the writers had covered the Cavs and Pistons. So they knew how he was, when he played. And the Rockers beat him. And we're waiting for him to come out. And we're like, oh, gosh, he's going to be horrible because they lost. He was the nicest guy.
Yep.
He was so nice. It was unbelievable how nice he was. And I didn't meet one. I don't think I met one coach that wasn't nice. Everybody was nice in that league.
What about Cheryl Miller?
Oh, I loved Cheryl Miller. The fans loved Cheryl Miller. You said you had season tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Were you there the night that they played the Mercury? And the fans always taunted Cheryl Miller. Like the fans.
I'm sorry. I'm going to do better in the future. Yes, I was one of them.
Okay, but do you remember the night that it might have been the last year she coached? They were taunting her. And in the second half, she had her assistants hold up signs toward those fans. It was so good.
Her middle finger was probably blinding me because I got direct like eye contact from her. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm 5 foot tall.
So Sapphire, why was you taunting Cheryl Miller?
Because I wanted us to win the game. She's, with all due respect, look, I remember when she bounced for USC. I mean, like it was always the twins between her and her brother Reggie. And I always felt like during her time, man, it's so unfortunate she can't play in the WNBA. That's how good I thought she was when she played. And as a coach, I don't know how it resonated with her players, because I think sometimes there's coaches that they have their way based on their specific experience, and they kind of expect, the pieces that they have to perform to a level that's outside of their capabilities, and it creates a little like friction. So in terms of how she was as a coach, I don't know, but she was a very intense player. I
think she was a really good coach. I think she just, from what I heard, she didn't like to travel.
Oh.
And so that was pretty much why she retired.
Okay.
Her first year, 1997, the Mercury, Nancy Lieberman Klein played for her. Mm-hmm. She was 40.
The old school. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the old school. And I couldn't remember. Did Lynette Woodard dip in was it the ABL or WNBA?
On the Rockers.
Yes. I was trying to remember that. I couldn't remember that. But yeah.
I just talked to her at the reunion.
Oh my gosh.
And
you're so lucky that you got to. How do you find out about stuff like that?
I got an email from Rusha Brown.
Oh, get out of here.
Yes. And it was amazing.
Yeah.
Because the thing is my son went to the reunion with me, and he grew up hearing stories about the WNBA.
Oh yeah.
Like I was going to make sure that my son understood that women can be great athletes too. Wow. And so he's always respected the WNBA. And what was great about the reunion was Dan Gilbert gave me some DVDs of games.
Oh, wow.
He made up packages for people of DVDs of games. And he gave me, and that was in April. And this is how I keep telling my son, you need to come over with the baby because you haven't been over since April. Yeah. Because there's a whole game on there that I want my son to watch. I want him to see how physical it was. Wow. And so it was, I can't see that there'll be anything in my life covering sports that'll be greater than the WNBA. The only thing that might match it is if they come back.
God bless you, Tim. It is so refreshing to hear a male's perspective on women's professional sports, especially basketball. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, Tim. And thank you so much for being a guest. We kept you a lot longer than I thought we were going to, but
That's
you know,
okay.
you've been great. You've been informative. So thank you so much. So we're gonna go ahead and let you know go because we gotta head to another break. But
All
I'll
right.
talk to you soon. Sapphire, you have something? Or a
I just
thumbs
want to
up?
say, Tim, it was really my pleasure to meet you and listen to you. And you know the history. And I hope you come back soon.
Thank you so much.
All right, Tim. We appreciate you, and I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
All
See
right,
you
you're
later.
listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. We'll be right back.
I wish I could hear what Rachel could hear because she's dancing and I'm not.
I'm gonna cook some chicken thighs too. I know we do buy the meat. I'm going to.
That was a phenomenal guest you had on.
Thighs. Purchased by the 8th, so probably cook tomorrow. All right, welcome back to Her in the Huddle, WOVU 95.9 FM. We got a couple minutes left, so I'll talk some Cleveland Cavaliers. Nothing really coming out of the Browns camp too much, Kate, other than, the Browns, have cut down practices, open practices to the public to 6, which I definitely don't appreciate.
They're boring to it's hot and they're boring to watch. And there's the people I want to see are not practicing in those practices. So it's fine. I wanted to say when Tim was here and we were talking about the Guardians, one of the things that you and I always complained about with Tito was, in a way, his loyalty to some of the players. He would leave pitchers in too long. When they started to struggle, he didn't pull them out far enough. And I was thinking about that last night because I heard Tom Hamilton during yesterday's broadcast mention the fact that the Indians are in the bottom of the league in getting innings out of their starting pitching.
Yep.
And while they said that as if it was a bad thing, to me, I think it's part of why they're winning. It's part of why Class A, with 88 games in, already has 27 saves, because we're getting them out before they dig a hole so deep that we can't climb out of it. And I felt I'm going to have to look it up. There were definitely not as many save opportunities last year, because we were behind by too much, because Tito would leave those guys in too long. And for me, that's been the biggest difference I've seen this year of when those pitchers are struggling. Vogt gets them out. They're barely averaging 5 innings. Yeah. And for now, I think that's actually a good thing. Get them out before you get in a hole.
Yeah, but
he's agile. He has his finger on the pulse and understands his players. I'm sorry.
Pivot,
that's it, Kate.
He can revert. He can react. Yep. He's making a move. Yep. He's got, like I said, enough depth in the bullpen that he can do that. He's got enough faith. Class A's got his head on right. His ERA's below 1. He's in the zone. And maybe one of the most important things is when you watch them play, they're having fun. Mm-hmm. They are fun to watch and they are having a good time. And I think I'm with you, Sapphire. We'll see how they do after the All-Star break.
Yeah.
But rolling into it, they're positioned. They're in a good position to finish strong.
Totally agree.
Yeah, because Stephen Vogt is in a position to be manager of the year.
Yes.
So, me, there's a lot of talk going on about, him possibly winning that award. Wouldn't that be cool? 2 Cleveland coaches to win in a year, Kevin Stefanski and Stephen Vogt, depending on what happens, but that would be awesome, and say a lot.
I don't know if we get new ownership. I agree. I don't think it'll make a difference. You don't see the parity in baseball the way you do in football and the NBA, right? Where a team who's at the bottom of their division can win that division and get to go on a run. You don't see as much of that in baseball. And that's because they don't do revenue sharing. And they're not ever going to agree to revenue sharing because the guys who are making $450,000 on a TV contract aren't going to vote to share that money with us making 45. Like, as long as that part of the league is making that much more money than everybody else, they're never going to vote for revenue sharing. Yeah. And that's the only thing that'll make baseball more competitive across the board. All you can do is what the Indians are doing, and we'll see. We'll talk in August, September, but I have a feeling they're going to do nothing again at the trade deadline. And what we're going to find is, yet again, they're one pitcher, one bullpen, one bat away from what they need to get to the World Series. And the owner's not going to spend the money because he already made his money with us watching them all season. You have to resign yourself to watching a 100-win team and maybe not necessarily getting to watch a World Series team. I mean, we're getting good baseball. There were years where I couldn't say that about our basketball team. There were years, Rachel, Sapphire, it was downright painful to watch the Cavs for a few years. At least now they're a lot more fun to watch. So maybe at some point we need to just adjust our expectations for the Guardians and just understand that we are going to have a fun summer with really good baseball, and that has to be enough.
Do you think they're going to adjust the ticket prices along with our adjustment of our expectations, Cleveland Kate?
I don't know that. I mean, fair, right? But I still think we have one of the least expensive tickets in the league. Because they realize that if they get more butts in the seats, we spend more money on concessions and parking and all the other things. If I'm not at the game, I can't spend my money on it. And I spend way more on food and everything else than what I spend on that ticket. So, I'm not going to the team shop unless I'm at a game. I don't run out to the mall and go to the team shop. When I'm at a game, I walk through the team shop. I get a shirt, I get a hat, I get something. And if they can't get me into the stadium, they can't get that extra money from me.
Absolutely. So, I usually drop a couple hundred in that team shop when I go. It's like, what did I buy?
Yeah. So I don't see them dropping prices. It would be an interesting, if they wanted to sell the stadium out again, if they wanted to get back to those days, it would be interesting to see what the profit margin was during the years when we sold it out versus higher prices selling less seats.
Great points.
And this team is pretty good. So, it's
again, sad that, you're a baseball girl. I'm not even a baseball girl like you are. I like watching them. I like listening to them on the radio. We still have Tom Hamilton. Thank you, Jesus, for as long as we have him. I will listen to them on the radio. I can't listen to the Cavs on the radio anymore. I miss Joe Tate. Don't like me, dude.
He was GOAT. He
seems very nice. He seems polite. He seems to know what he's doing. But when I turn the radio on and it's basketball and I don't hear Joe Tate, I can't.
Yeah.
At some point I'll get over it, but for now he's still my Cavs dude. So Hammy is still my Guardians dude.
And you know what I noticed? I think because I like to listen to the radio but watch the game. There's always a delay, right? It seems like there's always a delay. And Rachel, I wouldn't be Sapphire, Cleveland Kate. I wouldn't be Sapphire if I didn't say I hope they have tons of cake at the All-Star game.
Why?
For Joshua Naylor.
Why?
For Joshua Naylor.
Oh God, you don't leave him alone. He's an all-star now. So, obviously he's, he played as well as he can play for being, 200
pound for pound. He's my favorite player in the
he doesn't even look that big though. Like
250? You say 250?
250. About 250 if he's an ounce. 250 if he's an ounce.
Yeah, okay. But I say it with love. It's love. I can appreciate the Matisse man playing in the NBA. In the MLB, right?
He doesn't look that big in real life though. So it's kind of, shocking, surprising. TV and cameras make everybody look bigger.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yep. But yeah, it's a celebratory thing. And then, the Cavs officially announced today that they signed Donovan Mitchell to a 3-year, $150 million 0.3 contract with a player option for a fourth in 2027, 2028. Right now, the assistant coaches that have been named to Kenny Atkinson's staffs are Johnny Bryant, Jordan Ott, Damari Carroll, and Dan Garotte. And right now, Bronny James had 4 points in the summer league game so far, and he'll be playing again tomorrow night. He's injured, so we didn't get a chance to get in depth with that because that's our time, ladies. So it's been a great show. I want to thank Tim Shire of the Lake County Sentinel for being a guest on the show. Make sure you check out his writing. So Cleveland Kate for Sapphire, thank you so much for being here today. It's been a great show, and we are out of here.
Say it, girl.
Listen, Kate, it's awesome when you're on. I didn't. I thought she was. I said it at the beginning. But it's great having you on the show, man. Seriously, Kate. Like I love your whole perspective.
Try to be here. Try to be quiet till you need me to talk.
No, I mean it's really good. I'm telling you, I really, really, really appreciate you. Love it.
I'm just trying to figure out how long the delay is from when we're not live to when it actually says we're not live, because it still says we're live in Rachel's window.
Chicka, 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 chicka. Just in case we are.